This classroom video is part of a professional learning toolkit, which is based on the What Works Clearinghouse Practice Guide, Improving Reading Comprehension in Kindergarten through 3rd grade. In this video, you will see Teresa Malone and her 3rd grade students engaged in using the reading comprehension strategy questioning as they learn about space exploration and the work of astronauts. There are 5 sections to view. First, Ms. Malone introduces the topic drawing on students' prior knowledge and explains the comprehension strategy of asking and answering questions. Then she provides guided practice with the strategy as she reads a mentor text. The next day, she reviews the questioning strategy and demonstrates how to use it when they read a new text. In the 4th section, while most students work in pairs, some work with Ms. Malone in a small group as they all read a second text about astronauts. Finally, there is a whole class discussion about the text. The video is designed to support teachers learning about these recommended instructional practices, teach students how to use reading comprehension strategies, and guide students through focused, high-quality discussion on the meaning of text. These lessons span 2 days and built on a unit about space exploration in their science class. Ms. Malone begins the lesson by asking students to share with partners what they already know about space exploration. Ms. Malone then introduces the questioning strategy.
So today, remember how we made our bookmarks? Can you hold it up? Do you have your bookmark with you? Perfect. Today, that's the tool that we're going to use. It's going to help us be better readers and understand what we're reading, okay? What is something, other than summarizing, what's another thing that we can do to help us better understand what we're reading?
Ask.
Ask what?
A question?
Ask questions, right? Can you just ask any old question? No. What kind of questions do you need to ask? Donovan?
Like an iceberg, a lot of people have.
I love it. Explain the iceberg.
There will be like sometimes lore, and it will go deeper and deeper and talk about a character or a story.
Absolutely. So I thought this was a great insight that Donovan had. So if I'm looking at my text, right, he's talking about the iceberg. If we just ask questions up here that are really basic questions, right? What's the title? Where is it at? That sort of thing. We're only getting to questions up here. So this is my book. I want to get to these questions down here because that's really where the meat of that informational text is. I have this up here because this is kind of like my big bookmark. Ultimately, this is what we want to get to when we start doing our reading, okay? So we're going to go and look at our talking about astronauts today, right? I'm going to read a story. It's called actually informational text because we're doing nonfiction. A Day in the Life of an Astronaut. Okay, so maybe we'll see if we covered some of the things you guys were talking about, right, when you were sharing today. So you do have your expo marker and your whiteboard. Taking a look at your bookmark as I'm reading. Okay, you're going to write down. See if you can answer these questions. We're looking at what is the author telling us, right? What are we going to be learning today?
As the teacher reads the informational text about becoming an astronaut, students reference their bookmarks and write answers on their whiteboard to the question, what is the author telling us?
Okay, I'm going to pause it just for a second, let you think. Okay, look at your bookmark. Hold it up. Is there anything that you heard that you think you need to add to your board to answer your question?
You said that they have to have a master's degree and have teamwork and have a scientific background and leadership to go and be selected.
So do you think those are important things that the author wants to share with us?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty important. They're giving you some background now about it.
After reading the next section of the text, Ms. Malone pauses again. This time, she asks students to share with their partner what they thought the author is telling them. After a minute of student discussion, Ms. Malone calls the class back together again to remind them to use questions to focus on the deeper meaning of the text.
So I'm hearing a couple different conversations going on. Natalia, I love what you were saying. Can you say that out loud?
The author is telling us this because he wants us to know what it takes to be an astronaut and all the different stuff that they had to go to become an astronaut.
Absolutely. So let's try it again. I want to hear the author is telling. Ready? Go.
What do they want us to know? Like,
They want us to know about how to be an astronaut. Like you have to get a master's degree, and you have to go through amount of challenges.
The author wants us to know if you ever go to space, you would have to study more, learn about it, read about it, so you know what you're doing in space.
After several minutes of pair discussion, Ms. Malone brings the class together to wrap up the lesson for the day.
What do you think the author wants us to know?
If you want to be an astronaut when you grow up, the author's telling us that they have to go through simulations to get practice to be in the rocket ship and go.
Yeah. So overall, when we were reading, do you think it's easy to become an astronaut? No. No. It takes a lot of work. So that's what Adriel's talking about. So if I start out, the author wants us to know what?
What it takes to be an astronaut.
In case why?
Because if you want to be an astronaut, you have to practice. You can't just start off like swimming underwater and then you're an astronaut already.
So that's what the author's trying to tell us, right? He just didn't willy-nilly say, hey, read this story, right? He says, no, I really want to share this with you. This is a lot of great information. You might want to be an astronaut someday, right? Or maybe you're just interested in astronauts.
The next day, Ms. Malone reviews the comprehension strategy of asking and answering questions and sets the stage for more independent work with a second text, this time on a specific astronaut.
So let's look at what our objective is, right? For today, we can ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding of the informational text, okay? So our story yesterday, right, learning about an astronaut, that was real, right? Those are actual things that our astronaut's gonna do. So when I'm thinking back to that text, I want to connect with my text, right? I want to get to those deep questions. So the question that I'm going to be thinking in my head, right, is what is the author telling us, okay? Because this is what good readers do. They think in their head, they set a purpose for their reading, and then as they're reading, they're thinking about those questions. Today, you're going to be doing the same, but you're going to do it with a different text, okay? So yesterday we learned about the life of an astronaut. Today we're going to learn about an actual astronaut, okay? So today when I have you guys pair up, you're going to go ahead and grab your bookmark. I want you to be thinking those questions in your head, right? When you're reading through the text and you're learning about Mr. Bluford, what things are the same from yesterday and what things are different, okay? But you're going to be using these questions, asking to yourself in your head, you know, what is the author telling us about him?
Most of the students in the class read the text with partners. They have been strategically paired to have a more independent reader working with a reader who needs more support. Collaboratively, they read the text annotating as they go, and then, using the question and sentence starters on the bookmark, discuss what they have learned.
Bluford, complete in Air Force training program.
Learning to fly. After college, Bluford decided to become a pilot. What do you think the author is telling us?
He's telling us about an astronaut.
I think he's telling us all of the things he did before he became an astronaut.
Yeah, that's what
He was an engineer.
He was an engineer,
And
he
he-
was a
and
doctor, and he also took pictures of airplanes. Wait,
Yeah, and he made models of planes.
so which one should we do? The author is telling us, the author wants us to know, or the author is telling us this because? The author is telling us this, what they need to wear and study. So like they learn about medicine in case an astronaut got sick in space.
Yeah, I highlighted that right now.
While most students work with partners, Ms. Malone works with a small group to have a deeper discussion of the text. They use a process in which one student reads a section of the text, then students whisper read it to themselves while they annotate the text, highlighting the important sentences or words that answer the question, what is the author telling us? Finally, the group has a discussion about that section of the text.
So let's see, does this paragraph help us understand what the author wants us to know about Mr. Bluford?
The author is telling us this because
Okay, why is the author telling us about him going to college?
He wants to start learning how to become an astronaut and learning how to get smarter and smarter to get in the engineering program.
Absolutely, right? So he knows that he has to put in a lot of training, he has to go to school, right? So the author is telling us this because he wants us to know, wow, this, Mr. Bluford, he did a lot of hard work. And what was the other part that the author says to us? Not only did he have to go to college, but what was kind of the struggle for him?
His counselor
discouraged him to go to college.
Yeah, so wouldn't that even be harder for him, right?
Yeah,
So
because with his counselor telling him that, he believed that he couldn't do it, but he knows he wants to go to college and be an astronaut.
What did you notice from yesterday's text to today's text? What did you notice? Do you see any similarities?
How they're similar is because the last text they showed us how to be an astronaut, and the story it tells us how he became an astronaut.
I love it, absolutely, right? So yesterday was about
This time is a specific person.
Correct, specific person. Very good. Looking at Mr. Bluford, grab your strategy tool, okay? The author is telling us, so we know the author is telling us about what? A specific astronaut named Mr. Bluford, right? The author wants us to know, what did he want us to know?
How he became an astronaut.
How he became an astronaut, okay? Very good. The author is telling us this because. So why? Why would he choose Mr. Bluford to tell us about?
He was the first African American astronaut.
In the engineering program. Okay, why is that important? Why does the author want to tell us about that? Let's look at this. I want to kind of put our ideas down on paper a little bit, okay?
Ms. Malone had pairs discuss the important contributions of Dr. Bluford. Collaboratively, they filled out the graphic organizer. Then Ms. Malone summarized their discussion.
So we're finding out all this information about Mr. Bluford. What would the author, why is it important for the author to tell us all of this? What do you think, Jennifer?
Because he was an important person.
He was a very important person, right? Because, here he is doing a lot of firsts in history. Do you think he inspired people? Yeah. Under At Work in Space, the author wants us to know, not only is he just being an astronaut, learning all these things, but they're doing good work, right? They're out in space. And they're giving you an example right here that says, the satellite belonged to India. It would improve the telephone and television service in that country. So Mr. Bluford was part of that, right? He was a part of change and helping people. And that's what the author's trying to tell you.
In this video, you saw how Ms. Malone taught her students how to use the reading comprehension strategy of questioning. Her teaching utilized several teaching strategies for 2 of the recommendations in the Improving Reading Comprehension in Kindergarten through 3rd Grade Practice Guide. As described in Recommendation 1, Ms. Malone taught students how to ask and answer questions and then used a gradual release of responsibility to give students practice using the strategy more independently, either in the small group or with a partner. For Recommendation 3, Ms. Malone used the ask and answer question strategy to help students add to their knowledge base about their study of planets and space in science class. She discussed with the class the importance of asking deeper questions about a text using the iceberg analogy and led discussions or encouraged partner discussion about each text. See the practice guide for additional guidance on these and other recommendations.